Hello and welcome to Graybeard Survival and Bushcraft. Coffee can sure taste good on a nice cold day. It's not bad today. It's not super hot, but it's not super cold either. I can deal with it. It's good fall weather. Looking forward to what's coming in a way, but then in a way, not. Winters here can get really cold. And though we get snow, it's usually not a huge amount. Sometimes we'll get a blizzard or two, but I'm hoping we get some good snow cover and not a huge amount of blow. Blizzards are not my idea of a good time. That's a fast way to end up in a survival situation. Today I want to discuss a question that's been actually brought to me by a lot of people that know I'm into wilderness survival, and it's one of the most common ones. Everybody always has to ask, what gear do I need to survive? And like a broken record, they hear me say knowledge is always more important than gear. Learn the knowledge. Don't worry so much about the gear, but learn the knowledge. But to be honest and truthful about it, yes, the knowledge is what's going to keep you alive. But the less knowledge you have, the more gear you have to survive. So just saying knowledge, well, that's great and fine and good. That knowledge, even if you have it, is kind of worthless unless you've practiced it and turned it into actual usable skills. Those skills need to be refined over time. I've been doing this for 45 plus years, and I'm still don't call myself an expert. Okay, others might, I don't know, but I don't. Okay, I look at the primitive peoples around the world, what we would call primitive in our high and mighty societal type concept. But the simple fact is, they know how to live on this natural world without stuff. Okay? They know how to live with what nature provides, and that's basically it. This planet, it's like it's engineered for us to live on. Yet for the first time in all of mankind's history, we find ourselves in a situation where we can't live on a planet that's designed for us. Why is that? Well, it's not that we've gotten soft, like some would assert. It's simply the fact that we just don't have the knowledge of what our forefathers did. They knew what to touch, what not to touch. They knew what they could eat, what not to eat. I mean, they'd practiced, watched the animals and everything else, and they'd learned over thousands of years. And a lot of that information has just been lost because people think, wow, I don't need it anymore. I can go down to the grocery store and buy all my food, or I can go down the street and get any gear I need for whatever. I can just turn a tap in my kitchen and get water. Well, survival is the simplest thing on earth, I mean, truthfully, because it consists only of three things. You're talking shelter, warmth, you're talking food, and you're talking water. If you're warm, you have water and food, you can live pretty much forever. Well, at least until you die because of entropy, getting old. but it happens. But the simple fact does exist that you do need some gear to survive. The more knowledge you have, the less gear you're going to need. I mean, somebody that starts out is just a beginner. The ultimate question is gear as important as knowledge? Well, it depends. I say this because the more knowledge you have, the less gear you need. But does that mean you want to go without gear? That you want to? The answer is no. No. I mean, it's much harder to survive if you have to make all your survival gear before you can start answering all the other necessities that you have to survive. Okay? You can't depend on berries. They're seasonal. They'll come on during a short time, either during spring, summer, or fall. Then they're gone. The animals are also eating them as well. It's like mulberries, for instance. A mulberry tree puts on bushels of mulberries. I mean, gallons after gallons on one tree. But the thing is, that's all fine and good. It lasts for like 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And then there are just no more mulberries for the rest of the year. And that, for instance, tends to happen at least here around the end of May into June. It's like it is what it is. Each berry's going to have its own season. Some of them are going to be everbearing, i.e., put on a few berries here and there over an entire year, versus others which are just put on for a short season. You're also going to have different plants that you can find some of the stuff. For instance, if you're depending on flower head for identification of a certain plant to tell whether or not it's poisonous or non-poisonous, well, great. What part of the year is it flowering? Because if it's only flowering through the spring and early summer, you're gonna have problems come fall or winter. You see what I'm saying? Knowledge is more important than gear, because you could have all the gear in the world, and if you don't have the knowledge, well, guess what? You're still gonna die. If I was going to teach somebody wilderness survival, I would have to ask my question: what do they need to know? What gear should they have with them? I mean, if they're going to be practicing survival, or if they end up going off a cliff, should they have in their car or whatever, their vehicle? Because most situations involve a vehicle. What should they have in their vehicle or on their person for them to survive? Well, you've got three different stages. You've got beginner, you've got what I would call intermediate, and you've got what I would call advanced. Then you've got what I would call proficient. And the very few people in the United States that would qualify for a proficient is amazing. Okay? It's a very small number. I mean, you might have 100 people, maybe two. It wouldn't be much more than that. You look at somebody like Cody Lundeen or some of those other wilderness survival uh, people, personages, and I do not disparage them. There's some of them really know a lot. For instance, Cody Lundeen, he knows a lot. There's others out there that I'm not too impressed with. Okay, there's a lot of people that teach something good and true 1 second and then do something totally inane or teach something totally inane or stupid the next. Teach you how to survive on one hand, then teach you how to die in the next. Hold on. I'm just getting used to this camera thing. Okay. Now let's start off with beginners. A beginner is somebody that likes the outdoors. Maybe they go camping or hiking every once in a while. Maybe they go fishing, you know what I'm saying, or even hunting a little, you know what I'm saying. But it's a hobby. It's something that they do every once in a great while. It's not something that they know more about fishing than they do the outdoors type thing, or they know more about their camping gear than they do about what trees are in the campgrounds or animals for that matter. They don't think or they don't know much about the outdoors, but they want to know. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is not a judgment call saying that they're a beginner. Everybody starts somewhere. Okay? And if you're starting out a beginner, great. Maybe you don't know anything about the outdoors. Maybe you've never been outside of a city. Well, great. It doesn't matter. Great time to learn. The outdoors is awesome. You'll learn to love it. But a beginner has a low level of knowledge. And that low level of knowledge is going to have to be reinforced. It's going to take them a lot of gear. You know, somebody might ask me, Paul, for instance, what gear do you have? You're out there in the trees. What gear do you have on you right now? The answer is simple. Let me pull out. I've got three things on me besides my phone. Ah, wrong pocket. And this stupid camping chair. I'm getting old, like to sit down. I've got a good ferro rod, and it has on it some braided cordage, about 3 feet. I've got a folding little pocket knife, skeleton, lightweight, rugged, liner lock, so the blade locks open. And I've got a good multi-tool. And that's all I've got on me, besides my thermos and my camping chair and my camera stuff. But don't get me wrong, where I'm particularly at, it would not be particularly hard to survive. The biggest problem I'd have here is water. Because here on the Great Plains, they used to call this the Great American Desert for a reason. Besides creeks, you got the occasional ponds, lakes far and few between. And the creeks are miles distance from each other. You can walk for a long time if you're walking in the wrong direction and never see a creek, never find any water. So the hardest part around here is water. But everything else, I mean, shoot, it's plentiful. I mean, game, it's everywhere. Various varieties, everything's from snakes to frogs to birds, reptiles, mammals of all types. Everything's from squirrels to rabbits to you name it. Deer. Around here, there's not very many elk or moose or anything like that. There's no bears. At least not yet. They are moving in. They're moving up into the area. But for right now, it's a non sequitur, which I'm not complaining about because bears add an extra little bit of yay to wilderness survival. Excluding the fact that they do taste good. Ah. But it's one of those things that if I don't have to eat insects, I won't. If I do have to, well, whatever. Fry them up. But I'll take fit or I'll use insects to catch fish if I have my preference. is I can find a pond somewhere or a creek. Wherever you got a pond or a creek, you've invariably got some kind of fish, if nothing more than just bream, what we'd call uh, bluegill, shell crackers, or red ears, or green sunfish. There's all sorts of different stuff around. But it's a case of any and all of those will eat insects. And if I can get something that'll eat the insects, that's better for me. Next, you've got the intermediate class. Those are the long time hunters. People that have spent a lot of time out in the woods, but they've spent more time inside their farmhouses, if you get my drift. But it's one of those things that they know quite a bit about the woods. They know the animals that are there. They know how to hunt or how to fish, or they've spent a lot of time doing various outdoor activities like hiking, camping, hunting, fishing, what have you. They know what to do or what not to do around bears or wolves, that type of thing. Okay. But when it comes to wilderness survival, okay, it goes a lot deeper than that. It's not that simple. Um, Even they still are going to need quite a bit of gear. Well, great, you know how to hunt a deer, for instance. There's a lot of people that can hunt a deer with a rifle. Can you do it with a bow? There's a lot of people can answer yes. Can you do it with a recurve? There's a huge number of hunters just dropped right off the face of the planet as far as that's gone, because most of them use compounds. Well, can you make your own bow? Can you make your own arrows? How about bowstring? Okay, I can do all of those things. Can you? The question, and this is not one of those things, I'm not trying to compare myself to you, but just to give you an idea. This is knowledge that you have to have. For instance, if you find yourself out in a wilderness survival situation, you got to hunt. You've got to put some food on the table. Can you make a quick bow? Do you know how to make a good bow? There's different different levels of wilderness survival knowledge, even to all this stuff. For instance, you don't have to be a great bowyer, somebody who designs and makes bows. But you do need to know the basics. For instance, how to put together a good quick bow, how to be able to tailor it. It doesn't have to be super strong. 25 to 30 pounds was all the Indians used. That's all you need to hunt deer. No joke. You can hunt deer, rabbits, what have you, with a 25-pound to 30-pound bow. 40-pound, even better. But it doesn't have to be 50 to 60 like a lot of people insist. That's a modern thing. War bows used to be much heavier because they had to be shot at greater distances and in many cases go through plate armor, basically like hide, rawhide, a form of primitive armor. But it's one of those things. You see what I'm saying? Can you make your own fishing line? Can you make your own fish hooks without having metal to work with? Can you use just natural materials to do all of this? If you go into the wilderness with your bare hands, okay, at that level, you become something else. Now we come on to the advanced category. Now, the advanced category, they don't need much gear at all, okay? But they will still take gear with them, okay? The gear they need is a lot less than something else or somebody else because of the fact that the knowledge, they know where to look for flint. For instance, not only how to knock off a flake or how to flint knap an arrowhead, but where to look for the flint to begin with so that they can do some flint knapping. They know they know what to look for in a rock to be able to tell you at a glance whether or not it's knappable. And you may be saying, wow, It's not. It's just knowledge. I mean, this is nothing that's super hard. It takes some time to learn. For instance, if you know what a conchoidal fracture is, that's all you need to know about a rock to know whether it's knappable. If it'll give you a conchoidal fracture, it will flint knap. That includes glass, obsidian, flint, numerous other rocks. Jade, not all of them are great for making arrowheads or knives. Some of them are awesome, like flint. Flint makes a super sharp edge. Okay, sharper than steel can get. No joke. I'm not joking at all. It's superior to steel in how sharp it can get. The problem is its brittleness because it snaps really easy and it can flake and chip very, very easy. But an advanced person has enough knowledge to where they know how to look for seeps for water, or where to dig to look for water, or why. They know where food's going to be. I mean, they know the habits of numerous animals. They know a lot of the native local edible plants in their area. It's just stuff that you have to know to be able to go out into the woods to survive. And it's just, for us, we call it wilderness survival, something special, something ooh, ah, but for our ancestors, it was Tuesday. Understand this. For the primitive hunter-gatherer societies, it was just Tuesday. That was everyday life for them. Okay? We look at somebody that can make friction fire. Well, that's all and great. Somebody that's intermediate may know how to make friction fire. Somebody that's advanced is going to know multiple means of making friction fire, as well as other means of making fire other than just friction. Because, for instance, you can use compression to make fire. There's all sorts of different ways to skin a cat, basically, to do the same job. It doesn't make any one of them superior or inferior, or correct or incorrect. Okay? Just like most people know that have been watching shows or going to forums, they know to carry a couple means of making fire, for instance. Well, that's all fine and good. An advanced person in wilderness survival is going to know multiple ways of making friction fire. They're not only going to be able to make friction fire, but tell you why it is working or why it is failing in any given situation. For instance, it's like making fire. Anybody can make a campfire. But when it comes to difficult scenarios, that's when things get real. Now comes the question of what is the bare essentials of gears that anybody should have. Bare essential of gear. Tools. Tools, 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 tools. The hardest thing to make in the wild is tools, period. And I include cordage on that list, and bowls and stuff like that. Basically, any kind of tool, whether it be a carrying basket, whether it be cordage, knives, bows, fish hooks, that type of stuff. That's all tools that help you do a different job. Those are the things you want to have with you. Now, the bare essentials break down to being a cutting edge in cordage. Cordage takes forever to make any good lengths of it, and good cordage can be not as easy to find. I mean, sometimes you just find yourself in a place where you can't find any basswood or any stinging nettle or any yucca. those three, for instance, you can make cordage easy. Well, great, you're stuck with these grasses or this or that. What do? Well, you can still make cordage, and it may make okay cordage, or it may make lousy cordage, but you can make cordage. For instance, if I'm trying to make quick cordage in building a shelter, a lot of times I'll just strip green bark off of young saplings that I've cut harvested. Why? Because not only do I have the wood from the green sapling, but I also have the strips of bark, which can be used to tie stuff together. And as it dries, it will shrink. And as it shrinks, it will tighten. So you can actually make it to where it's self-tightening over time. Same is true of rawhide. Basically, a wet skin. You soak it, get it nice and soaked and pliable, and you stretch it out, and then you tie something up with it. Once that dries, it's going to crush as it's shrinking. It gets super tight. Now, unfortunately, when it concerns a wilderness survival situation, a real one, reality intrudes because we all have this list of stuff that we'd love to have with us. If I found myself in a wilderness survival situation, truth be told, I'd like to have a full backpack full of camping gear. Okay? I don't need it, but it would be very convenient to have all that gear. But reality intrudes, okay? In real life, most situations in which a survival scenario comes into play in actuality involves like vehicular crashes, etc. And in these type of scenarios, you only have the gear that you have on you in a lot of cases. I mean, if your car goes off a cliff, if you've got something in the trunk, it may be in the trunk for eternity. Or that trunk may get bashed open on the way down and it's scattered all over hell and high water. Or you're in the middle of the mountains and your pack just went off the side of a cliff because you set it down and it slid. I mean, you can be in a situation to where, uh-oh, you're in trouble. And you know it. You've got to get out, or you've got to get out of that situation. Well, always carry a few certain things on you. If you get into the habit of carrying a little clip on pocket knife like I do, okay, or have a pocket knife always in your pocket, well, fine and good, okay. There's a lot of people in civilized society that don't get this, but whatever, that's their problem. Okay, they can get over it. Not trying to be abusive with the concept, but it's just one of those things. I'm not going to sacrifice myself, but it's a case of having a multi-tool on you. Okay, it's just a very handy thing, and those are things that you forget you're carrying after a while. Have a ferro rod in your pocket, or a lighter. I mean, a little Bic lighter that can make your universe a happier place. The problem is, I'd rather have a ferro rod than a lighter. And somebody may look at me weird, huh? Yeah, but there's more fires in a ferro rod than there is in your average Bic lighter. That's no joke. And if you're using it multiple times a day, day in, day out, Bic lighter's going to be gone pretty fast. Ask any smoker. They will tell you it lasts for a month or two. You know what I'm saying? Then poof, it's gone. Now, if anybody has noticed that my right eye tends to be closed anymore, well, that's fine. And that is actually a thing. I've had a couple of blood vessels burst in the backside of the eyeball. And I can't hardly see out of it right now. Everything's just, ah. that everything's kind of just this hazy mist uh, of orange. Eh, and it's a mess, and it can ache if I look at it too much. But it's not a detached retina. It's something that can right itself over time. I've got to wait for all the blood that's gone in there to actually absorb back into my body. But I thank you for noticing, if you noticed at all. But I'm not sitting here trying to be like a pirate with one eye closed. But now, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe so you don't miss out on what's coming next. I intend to do a whole bunch of videos. I've got all sorts of topics. I've even got some gear reviews lined up of inexpensive gear. I'm not trying to make this just for the people who like to spend a lot of money. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you can and you desire to, I'm not going to damn you for doing it. But for those who don't have a lot of money to spend, it's easier to find good gear when you've got a lot of money than it is to find good gear when you're next to broke. And I've lived a good portion of my life next to broke, so I understand that. But it's one of those things to where I'm going to try to help you with that. Now be sure to check out my other vids for more wilderness info if you like this one. I thank you all. You have a good day.